Nigeria may find a safe haven for investors as capital market groans. CBN announces 6 initial policy response to combat impact of COVID-19. U.S. crude falls below $30 as Fed move fails to calm markets. This is Business Express reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital, and I am Benny Adams, your guide. The Central Bank of Nigeria this Monday announced temporary policy measures to mitigate against the effects of coronavirus on the economy. Let's join Leah Katung-Baba today at the CBN headquarters for an update.
Reacting to growth concerns that the coronavirus has brought on major economies. Now, the Central Bank of Nigeria has this Monday reacted also to global concerns that have rattled markets from oil and gas to airlines, manufacturing, trade and consumer markets. Governor Godwin Emefiele of the Central Bank of Nigeria announced 6 initial policy responses to combat COVID-19 scourge on the Nigerian economy. Now, these policies, of course, include extension of moratorium on loans, interest rate reduction on CBN's interventions from 9% to 5%, the creation of a 50 billion naira fund, credit support for healthcare sector, regulatory forbearance and strengthening of loan to deposit rate policy.
Because of the drop in revenues to companies that may be or that will be directly adversely impacted upon by this COVID health crisis and economic crisis, because the revenues will drop, that we are saying if your loan was initially meant to be a, say, 3-year loan, where, for instance, you were paying on a monthly basis, say you took 10 million naira, you are paying, say, 100,000 naira as repayment, or a 3-year loan. We are saying we are going to grant the banks the dispensation where they can restructure your loan from 3 years to 6 years, such that in addition to low interest rates, what you'll be making in instrumental repayment of your loans would have dropped from, say, 100,000 naira monthly to, say, 50,000 naira monthly to match the reduction in revenues arising from the impact of coronavirus.
And the Monetary Policy Committee will be meeting here next week, and the Governor Emefiele hints that decisions on the monetary policy rates would then be taken, but for now he has no answers to that question. From the Central Bank of Nigeria building, I am Leah Katung-Baba today.
The Central Bank of Nigeria has announced the extension of moratorium of 1 year on all principal repayments effective March 1st, 2020. Interest rate reduction from 9% to 5% is also effective March 1st. The Governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, at a briefing on the COVID-19 and the economy, also announced creation of a target creative facility through NASL Microfinance Bank of 50 billion naira, as well as credit support for healthcare industry. Loans to pharmaceutical companies, hospital and healthcare companies were also set to be necessary, as the Apex Bank equally grants all DBMs extension for forbearance. Meanwhile, coronavirus. Nigeria has increased the number of high COVID-19 risk countries on her travel advisory to 8. The affected countries are China, Italy, Iran, South Korea, Japan, France, Germany, and Spain. Banking equities on the Nigerian Stock Exchange pushed declines as they shed 26.2% on the week. The massive sell-off was propelled by escalated coronavirus-induced growth concerns that have seen oil prices fall below the 2020 budget benchmark. Amina Nujem has got her eyes on the market.
The stock market report for the week ended 13th March 2020 indicates that a total turnover of 3.964 billion shares worth 43.703 billion naira in 26,054 deals were traded last week by investors. The NSE OSHA index and market capitalization both depreciated by 13.49% to close the week at 22,733.35 basis points. All other indices finished lower, while NSE ASAM index closed flat. The financial services industry led the activity chart with 3.547 billion shares, worth 33.623 billion naira, that was traded in 19,150 deals, contributing 89.48% and 76.94% to the total equity turnover volume and value. The consumer goods followed with 91.135 million shares, worth 6.007 billion naira in 2,341 deals. Meanwhile, trading in the top three equities, Zenith Bank PLC, Guarantee Trust Bank PLC and United Bank for Africa PLC accounted for 2.448 billion shares, worth 29.563 billion naira in 12,301 deals. This contributed 61.75% and 67.64% to the total equity turnover volume and value. A summary of the price movement chart shows that 2 equities appreciated in price, 64 equities depreciated in price, while 97 equities remained unchanged.
Nigeria may have found a safe haven for investors as capital market groans under the weight of coronavirus-related drags. Vice President Yemi Osibajo says the commodities trading ecosystem is one of the many efforts to diversify the economy and will impact positively on the capital market and the national economy.
The government's rice value chain initiatives, whereby Nigerian farmers are equipped with improved rice seedlings, fertilizer, and borrowing facilities for production of Nigerian rice, is yielding positive results. So also are related initiatives in the production and processing of other crops.
With me to talk about the commodities trading in the capital market is Mr. Emomotimi Agama. He is the head of Department Registration, Exchanges, Market, Infrastructure, FinTech, and Innovations Department. Mr. Agama, you're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you for having me.
Well, the new talk in town now is the commodities trading ecosystem. Can you take us through this process? What is this initiative all about, and what is it set to achieve?
Well, thank you once again for having me at your studio. Bring you greetings from the Director General of the SSC, Ms. Mary Uduk, and her team. This is not new. That's an impression I want to correct. Agriculture is not new. Nigeria has been blessed with agriculture. Nigeria is an agrarian society. Nigeria has lived on agriculture. So what we are doing is taking us back memory lane, making sure we understand where we came from. Nigeria today is a mono product economy, which is primarily oil, but that's not the case. The real issue is that Nigeria is a multi-product economy. However, we have decided to choose just one to deal with. And the Commodities Market Ecosystem Report clearly was written with the aim to get us back to where we first began. And where was that? Agriculture. So the SEC set up a committee, and that committee is called the Capital Market Master Plan Committee.
10-year master plan.
10-year master plan committee, which was from 2015 to 2025. In that report, we thought about what are the ways by which we can attain some level of independence and financial independence and product independence. Hence, we are looking at diversification, as it were. And one of the recommendations of that report was that we should evaluate the commodities market and rejig the commodity market to rejuvenate that market in order for us to achieve maximum economic output.
The rejuvenation of this market, as it's been said, there's been this talk about diversification for long dependence on oil is not the way to go. And with the heavy blow coronavirus, COVID-19, is dealt on the world economy and the way we should go. People are like, let's look inwards. And the new thinking, why I said it's new, is there is this talk about why should it be agri-commodities? Why are we not talking about the mineral sector? Why are we not talking about the energy? Crypto notes are coming on board. I didn't know part of these commodities that the capital market should begin to look into to diversify to help grow the economy.
Yeah, thank you again. Also to bring to your knowledge, when we say commodities, we go beyond agri-commodities. We are looking at minerals. We are looking at gold. We are looking at bauxite. We are looking at zinc. We are looking at lead. We are looking at every commodity that you can think of. So you divide it. You divide it into soft commodity and hard commodity.
Yes.
So soft commodity are the agricultural commodities, and the hard commodities are those minerals that we're talking about. And of course, even oil itself is a commodity. Gas is a commodity. However, what has happened over time is that we have concentrated more on gas and oil rather than these other commodities. And I also tell you that in Nigeria, as we speak today, we are a blessed nation, blessed in terms of human resources and blessed in terms of commodity resources. There is virtually no state in this country today that does not have a commercial quantity of a commodity. None. And with such huge wealth, there is no reason why coronavirus should be an issue in our economic situation. So what we are saying is that, yes, coronavirus is bad, but it has also brought to fore the need for us to rethink our economic blueprint, to rethink our strategy, and to rethink the basis for which we earn revenue for this nation. Because if you decide to follow the old route of just one product, then we'll be in bad shape. Already, because of the coronavirus, because of the oil glut, because of the issues around OPEC and oil producers, the price of oil has gone down over 50% or thereabout, below, down, and the budget too is so affected. But imagine that we go back to the good old days when we talk about granules, when we talk about the granite pyramids, when we talk about palm oil, when we talk about sesame seed, when we talk about cotton, when we talk about cocoa, when we talk about maize, just name it. You count the list and it will be unending. There is no country in this world that is so endowed like Nigeria in terms of commodity, in terms of mineral. Because there's no part of this country that you go that you will not find those things. You go to Zamfara, you have gold. You go to Oyo, you have gold. You go to Nasarawa, you have zinc. You go to Jos, you have zinc. You go to Ondo, you have bitumen. You just name it. Wherever you go, there is a blessing in form of commodity in any of these areas that we are talking about. Hence, it's important that we now start beginning to walk the talk.
In walking the talk, I understand stakeholders in the commodities ecosystem are converged on Abuja. They are on ground to brainstorm on the way out. At the end of the day, what should we expect and what form is this ecosystem going to take? Is it going to take a format that is formal, semi-formal, or non-formal? Which is the way to go for us to get the results we have long talked about?
So the ecosystem, yes, the SEC with its partners is actually organizing the international conference on commodities, Nigeria commodities markets. And that the reason for that is not far-fetched. You cannot do anything alone. You must involve others, because commodity trading and the improvement or diversification we are thinking about or looking out for is an issue of collaboration and cooperation. And it starts with the value chain. The value chain is long. You are talking from the smallholder farmer, you are talking about the land, you are talking about standards, you are talking about seedlings, you are talking about market infrastructures, you are talking about off-takers, you are talking about finance. All of this stretch, right, is very, very important. There is hardly any one of these parts of the value chain that is unimportant.
Okay, talking about this value chain,
yes.
Where is the place of the smallholder farmer in commodities trading? Are you thinking of way of bringing them to the mainstream capital market for them to be part of the process to this particular point?
Very well. They are so important, because it is in aggregation that you have size. And the people that will farm to get these commodities into aggregation are the smallholder farmers. But what's important is that this smallholder farmer must also have access to finance. Because without access to adequate finance, they are not able to do what they ought to do. And without knowledge, right, they are not able to understand the type of seed they are going to plant, the nature, the quality, the standards, and they're not also able to understand the quality of the soil that they are going to plant on. This requires adequate knowledge, understanding, and these stakeholders in their various rights have the capacity to deliver such. So that is why it is important that we come together, which we are doing now, to at least iron the issues as to where we need to go and what we need to do to bring to actualization this theory of agricultural or economic diversification that has been on the table for so long.
In talking about this diversification, yes, particularly credit facilities for the smallholder farmers, yes, the Bank of Agriculture, we understand, are operating on that single digit, yes, between, I think, 8 to 9%. Yes. Is that enough for now? Do we foresee such interest rates going as low as 5% for more of these smallholder farmers to get to benefit from these credit facilities, to get to produce the much we need to produce to grow the economy?
It's our desire that we should have very, very low interest rates for farmers. And because that's the only way to go. Because if the interest rates are high, what happens? That is translated to the cost of the product. If the interest rate is low, that is also translated to the cost of the product. So the benefit of having a low interest rate is an encouragement to the farmer. And once the farmer is able to produce enough, then those goods are aggregated. Because in the process of aggregation, you are talking about storage, you are talking about packaging. And once you are able to do that, you can retain those products for a longer time than it ordinarily will be. What we see these days is that even the smallholder farmer, after harvesting, toiling and harvesting, you find out that a lot of those commodities get to waste.
No storage facilities.
We must deal with those situations. And that's why we are talking about the value chain. So if every part of the value chain, there is a need to deal with the malaise in that part of the value chain. And once you are able to deal with that malaise, you create a relationship in the value chain so that at the end of the day, it gets to the off-taker at a good price for the farmer. Because it is not enough to produce. It is not enough to go to farm. What will come out of that production What
But
will come out of that produce?
for
Yes.
long, this has been advocated, and we have agencies that are responsible to ensure that this happens. But we are where we are today. More so that countries are shutting up their borders because of what we're experiencing globally. How can that increase local capacities as well as affecting trade for us in Nigeria?
The important thing, the simple economics is that once there is demand, supply must match it, and you have an equilibrium. But once you have a demand and supply does not match demand, what happens? The price of commodities go up. So it's important that we encourage the smallholder farmer via every means that we can. It's a global practice that subsidies are given to farmers all over the world. So Nigeria cannot be an exception. So what we are saying is that the farmers themselves must get education, must get knowledge, in order for them to appreciate what they need to do in creating standards from the commodities that they're going to produce. That is important. So each of these stakeholder we're talking about, each of this partner we're talking about, has a role to play. And that role is best understood by that partner. I mean, it's a local, usage to say that when the hand does not watch each other, it certainly will not get clean. So,
in doing that, where should we go from now?
Where we are going from now is to cause the smallholder farmer to have value for the commodity he is producing. Beyond that is to make sure that the commodity that the smallholder farmer is producing is appropriately priced. And in making that happen, we must make sure that the standards that those commodities will have will be global standards. And in doing that, we are also going to make sure that we have a platform, which are the commodity exchange, for these commodities to be sold. In achieving that, we are going to make sure that there is an off-taker who is ready to take those commodities. And once that happens, he's creating employment, because if he has enough supply of the commodities he needs for his production, he will have the desire to increase production, and in having the desire to increase production, he will also have the desire to employ more Nigerians. Okay. And the youths that we have in this country will now be fully and gainfully employed.
Okay, with the platform the ecosystem now seeks to provide, what's the advantage for traders in the Nigerian capital market over their counterparts, particularly in other nations?
The important thing is that it is formalized. You can trace it. You know who you are dealing with. You know where the goods are coming from. You know the quality of the goods. You know that they are following standards. You know they are following global practice. And so, Nigeria will be the destination. Everybody will want to come here.
How soon do we expect that to happen?
As soon as yesterday. We want to walk the talk. That is the essence of what we are doing today.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Emomotimi Agama, Head of Department, Registration, Exchanges, Market Infrastructure, FinTech, and Innovations Department. It was nice talking with you on Business Express. Hope to have you some other time.
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope to be here any other time.
Business Express continues shortly. The Nigerian equities market opened bearish this week. The NSE All-Share Index declined 0.12% to close Monday trading session at 22,705.19 9 basis points. The volume of trade was 551 million worth of shares that was valued at 5.7 billion naira, traded in 6,981 deals. The market capitalization stood at 11.8 trillion naira. The most traded stocks were the financial institutions of Guaranty Trust Bank, FBN Holdings and Zenith Bank. The gainers table was led by Julius Bader, Zenith Bank and Union Bank of Nigeria PLC, while the decliners were WAPCO, UBA and Dangote Sugar. This is the point where we end this edition of Business Express. We value your feedback, so keep the comments, observations and suggestions coming. You can access all previous episodes on YouTube on the NTA's channel. You can also communicate with us on Twitter, and the handle is NTA News Now. Don't forget to use the hashtag BizX. Business Express returns Wednesday. I am Benny Adams saying keep thinking and doing business.